Hi, Claire and James here. Just before we get stuck into this week's episode, we wanted to let you know the exciting news that the Midlife Reset audit is now live. This is a first of its kind personalised diagnostic tool designed for midlifers by midlifers.
In just 3 minutes, the audit will help you pinpoint what's really holding you back from living your healthiest, happiest midlife, and most importantly, provide tailored strategies on how to take back control. Midlife doesn't have to be a time of uncertainty. It can be an era of growth, discovery, and well-being. So to go ahead and take the audit, go to themidlifementors.com/audit.
In this week's episode, we're thrilled to be speaking to Olympic legend Sir Steve Redgrave. Steve is the most successful male rower in Olympic history and the only man to have won gold medals at 5 consecutive Olympic Games in an endurance sport.
We talked to Steve about the challenges of finding direction after such a long and stellar career, the challenges of midlife, and the impact low testosterone can have on men at this time of life, both physically and emotionally. We cover goal setting, motivation, and the importance of quantifying our goals and taking incremental steps towards them on a daily basis. It really is an inspiring podcast, and we hope you enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoy chatting to Sir Steve. Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Mentors podcast with me, James.
And me, Claire. Well, we haven't been up to a lot since we last spoke to you, since we released last week. And also, we are rather excited to get on and speak to our incredible guest that we have on today. We have, drum roll please, Sir Steve Redgrave, a British retired rower. You will recognise his name. He is the most successful male rower in Olympic history and the only man to have won gold medals at 5 consecutive Olympic Games in an endurance sport. Steve's also involved in many charities, and in 2006, he completed his 3rd London Marathon, breaking the world record for the most money raised by a single competitor, more than 1 million. 1.8 million. Let's get that right. Steve, thank you so much for agreeing to be on our podcast. We're really excited to have you here.
No, it's a pleasure to join you. Looking forward to the challenging questions you're going to be asking me.
I don't know about that.
So I guess the first thing I want to go into is you've had an extraordinary career as an athlete, but how has your perspective on health, fitness and life changed as you transitioned out of being an athlete into kind of midlife and beyond?
Very, very tough, really. That sports people tend to retire relatively early. Educational wise, a lot of sports, if you look at the footballers, the cricketers, certainly in this country, is that especially footballers, they're taken at such a young age and go into academies and work their way through and probably drop their education relatively early, or certainly that isn't the desire of area they go. They could have very successful careers and as we know, only a very small percentage make it. So then they've got to sort of fall into normal life, where rowing is relatively a quite educated sport. I didn't go to university, but most do. But I rowed internationally for 20 years, from the ages of I was an international at 17, right the way through to I was 38 when I retired in my 5th gold medal in Sydney. I was lucky, I think, in some ways, is that I was 38 when I stopped. But within weeks, the British Olympic Association got in contact with me, and I went down to London, sat out on the street in the autumn, had coffee, and we chatted about the potential of bidding for Olympic Games. I thought, wow! So my Olympic dreams changed as an athlete, focusing on the Olympics, and went into of trying to get the games to London. Obviously, 12 years build up to that. The first of 7 years was trying to convince the government, Ken Livingstone, the mayor at the time, and then the IOC members to vote for us. So my Olympic dream sort of carried on, and it was just tremendous to be part of, all as a volunteer. And then at the games itself, it was amazing. I turned 50 that year, so it was quite a milestone that sort of passed me by in some ways. The excitement of the country was amazing. And then we went into the Paralympics again, that stepping that event on by huge amounts. The British public really got behind it. It was amazing to be part of. The closing ceremony, I watched it on TV, and the cauldron goes out of the Olympic flame, or Paralympic flame goes out. And literally, I thought, okay, what am I going to do now?
Right.
I'm 50 and a half. The Olympic bubble has burst for me. It's been amazing of being part of it. Of course, I've been to other games since then, but it suddenly hit me of what I'm going to do next. And there was an emptiness, a sort of a hollowness of what they're doing. And a lot of these athletes I've been talking about go through that, through the injury of stopping sport, or of between sort of 20 and 30. A few of us go into our 30s. Very few sort of into the 40s. There are a few that compete at that sort of level, and being that I was going through that at 50, where they were probably going through it a little bit earlier. A sort of a midlife crisis of right, what do I do next? Because you're so driven in one place.
Yeah.
All your life, every minute of the day, and even dreaming at night, it is focused on what you're trying to do. And then suddenly that's been taken away, and you've got to sort of come back into normal life, whatever that does. And it sort of had the symptoms of depression, and it took a long time to get over that, and sort of refocus of in your life. And I suppose I still struggle a little bit, but because I've got no one direction, which I had for 20 years, and then another 12 years after that of trying to get the games here at London.
Yeah. And Steve, like, how did you, if you don't mind us asking, how did you deal with that depression that you mentioned there? What was the support like? Were there any things that you did in particular to help this
Typical
out?
bloke for 9 years, did nothing.
Right.
Just sort of talk to yourself and say, pull yourself together, get on with it. And that obviously, in that time, I'd gone to another two games on the media side of ambassador side, so things were having, but it's sort of day-to-day life of just evolving, and yeah, I need to do this today, so you get on and do it, but you don't sort of deal with the symptoms. I did go and see my GP eventually, and she was very helpful and pointed me in a few directions. But it was actually a personal friend that actually was involved with the British Olympic Association, and one of those guys that asked me to be involved for 2012. And he'd moved on from the British Olympic Association, done lots of other things. And we met up for coffee in Marlow, my local town, and we sat down. And he said, "I'm involved in a company called Ted's Health." And I thought, well, okay, what's all that about? And it's about of men in sort of middle age. As you get older, our testosterone goes down. And he said, "Well, why don't you have a simple blood test and see where you are? You sound like you've got all the symptoms of low testosterone, and being an athlete, testosterone is looked upon as being a sort of a cheating mechanism. So you never really come across it. I've never known what my testosterone levels are. I've had many anti-doping tests, so I know it was always in the limits of where, but I don't know if it was higher than average or lower average.
Yeah.
Certainly, when I had the blood test, it was certainly lower than average. I'm also a diabetic, so that was another equation that came into it, and the results came down that was very low. and probably needed testosterone injections to, it's either a gel that you can put onto your body or an injection. It's a gel every day of your life or an injection every 6 months. I'll go for every 6 months because I'm doing something every day. And that, I suppose the next question is, do you think it's made any difference?
Yes, I was going
I've
to
been
say
on that treatment now for just over a year, and it's really difficult to quantify it. But I suppose that I can sum it up is that I think mood wise, I'm a lot better. I feel a lot more comfortable in my own skin. But in January, I'm doing dancing on ice.
Oh, wow.
Are you?
Incredible.
Yes.
I didn't know this.
It's
Does anyone know this?
got announced last week.
Right.
Training actually starts tomorrow. So literally, I'm getting my skates on tomorrow. I
That's so
can't dance. I've avoided dancing all my life. Have I skated? I've been on skates a couple of times, but certainly not dancing on ice by any stretch of the imagination. I'm 62. So why I bring that up is that a year ago, if that opportunity had come up, I would have said absolutely no way.
Okay.
So I think that the example I'm trying to give is that it do you notice anything on a day-to-day basis? No. But I'm doing things now that I wouldn't have even dreamed of doing 18 months ago or 5 years ago. So yes, I think that it is making a difference.
I'm so glad you brought that up because it's something I'm really passionate about, kind of opening the conversation for men, because I think not enough men actually really understand the role of testosterone. We kind of heard of it in that kind of sports context, right? Or it's like and macho and aggressive, but we don't really understand the multiple roles it plays in the body and with our psychology, and how it is declining with age and how that can impact us. So I think it's great you've brought that up. So thank you for sharing it, because it's something that, yeah, certainly we're really passionate about trying to raise awareness around it and open those conversations and get men just to be like, well, should I get myself checked out on this or not?
Well, it's one of those things that a very simple blood test could rule you out of that. So if you've got a sort of a gaining of weight, feeling tired, a little bit of depression, low libido, that all those sort of things is that if you feel even one or two of those sort of categories, you have a simple blood test, and it's a yes or no. You can rule it out. That's not the problem. Perhaps to look somewhere else. So why not? I think you'd be silly not to, but that's the way I look at it. But going back to the original question of a typical man, 9 years of doing nothing. Now, there's a difference between men and women. Is that get a group of men together? We're not comfortable talking about our own mental health. We're not talking about we'll take the mickey out of everybody, and have a little bit a joke about it. Where a group of women will have more of a serious conversation, and your friends will say, "Well, go and do this, or try this, or." React to it very quickly, where we think, oh yeah, it's just the way of life, and we'll move on. The problem is, the older you get, as I said before, now I'm 62, it is that you think, well, okay, is that just the aging process?
Yeah,
we're all going to go through the aging process, but the process, is it more than that? So it's quite a good thing to sort of get checked out and get yourself on the right track.
Definitely. And listen, it's so important for men to have these conversations with their friends as well, because like all the research shows men are less good than women at maintaining their social networks. They're less likely to open up, they're less likely to go to their primary health givers, their GPs, for these problems. And I think, like say, so many men, we've got that kind of stoic mindset of like, oh, I'll just get on with it. But we need to start opening a conversation and start talking to our friends. And if we're feeling this way, go see our doctors as a first port of call.
Yeah, and I think
first port of call is always with your GP.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's quite difficult to get appointment nowadays, but it's always a good start.
Yeah. And I think this is why we try and do these sorts of things together is there's so much talk now about the menopause, and it's amazing. It's really out in the public arena, lots of people talking about it. There's far less shame of women even talking about it now. However, I think we're only just at the beginning of really talking about the hormonal changes openly that happen to men at this time of life. And actually, for women also to be understanding that as well, because women are just thinking, and obviously the menopause is a very different thing. So I'm not taking anything away from it. It's not a competition. But, we're just thinking, oh, we're just going through those hormonal changes. But no, our partners, if our partners, the guys that we work with, they're going through hormonal changes as well that are affecting them physically and psychologically.
It is very different. It is that every woman will go through the menopause. They will go
Yeah.
through that. It will affect different women in different ways. Some will be relatively straightforward, and some will have a
Mm,
shocking time going through it.
mm,
Not all men have the male menopause,
mm.
but we all go through that process. So it's always good to sort of be aware of it, talk about it,
Yeah.
even take the mickey out of each other of doing it, but make sure that you, if you notice changes with one of your friends,
Yes.
help them do something about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, one thing I want to ask you about is training. Like, you're still obviously in great shape, but I'm
Oh,
sure
God.
being an Olympic rower, and it was very intense for years and years. Your training. How have you kind of adapted now, and what do you do on a kind of day-to-day basis?
Obviously, of the statement I just made a few minutes ago of dancing on ice and training starts tomorrow. We're going to do 2 hours of skating every day, 5 days a week. So that's a hell of a lot of commitment. We're 3 months away from the show even starting. So it's a lot of preparation. But
Yeah.
taking that to one side, because obviously that's a commitment and a focus like I used to have as an athlete.
Mm,
Day to day, I always found that when I retired, it was talked about a lot, but because I'd been involved in endurance sport for a very long period of time and probably trained harder than anybody at that time had trained, is that having a former East German coach at the end of my career, he was very adamant that I needed to do a wind down program. So
Mm.
when you talked about the London Marathon, I did 3 London marathons. I used the London Marathon as a motivator to wind down, where I was doing 2 or 3, sometimes 4 training sessions in a day on the preparation to my 5th Olympics. Is that it sounds a bit odd of using a marathon to wind down from exercise,
yes, it does sound odd too.
but you have to do something almost every day. You've got
Mm,
to go through that process, and
yeah.
because there's an end goal
Yeah.
in March or April of when the marathon was for me, is that it gives you that motivation. Okay, I've got to do something.
Mm.
At that time, motivational was I did that for 25 years of my life. Been out on the river 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 times every day for most of that period.
Wow.
My motivation was to do nothing. So that I used that as a motivation. And what I do now, once that was happening, and obviously I did of 3 of them, I did the race across America. That's only 3,000 miles from one side to the other on push bikes. I did do it as a team of 8, and you have
Yeah.
to keep somebody on the road at all times. But again, that was another thing. So what
Yeah.
I find myself doing is doing a challenge, sometimes quite major and ridiculous, but of when I'm out of that sort of crazy of what's going to come next sort of challenge, is that I've got one very close friend, did a little bit of rowing, but not internationally. That we play a bit of golf together. We cycle quite a lot. We've both got watt bikes in our garages. So during the winter, in fact, must have well of October now, is that I haven't been out on my bike on the road at all since probably this time last year.
Right.
Right.
But when the weather gets a bit worse, is that we go on our watt bikes and we get on to social media. We'll chat for 15 minutes of a 45 minutes or an hour cycle that we'll do. As we get a little bit more tired, the quietness goes down and the sweat comes up. But that's what I find for me that works. I couldn't go down to the gym on my own. That's just not going to motivate me. I probably would get my bike out and have the odd cycle, but I said that I haven't done that the whole of this summer. But so getting somebody else involved, meeting up. One of the things that I've got a few friends that I play golf with, and if we don't book in the next of time that we're going to play, will takes months for us to get round to organising it. But if we've organised it before we've left, is that we might do it in 2 or 3 weeks, and there's that process of working, looking forward to it, and being part of it. So my suggestions would be is that your sort of group of friends of make sure you book in something. It could be a cycle, it could be a walk, it could be a round of golf, it could be a playing tennis or going to the gym. Is that fact of having that? I suppose when I was rowing, you can't row if one doesn't turn up. If you're rowing in an 8 or a 4, and there's only 3 of you turn up, you can't put that 4 on the water. So it's that commitment you've got to make. So it's trying to make that commitment, not as hard as sort of focusing on you've got to do it because you're going to the Olympics. Is that you're doing it sort of to keep fit, and it's not just the fitness; it's the mental side of it, and the interaction of being around people.
Yeah.
For other people, and I'm not saying go out and get a dog, but obviously dogs need exercise.
Yeah.
And so that's a process that somebody's got to take it for a walk. That's a good process of being out there, and you will find a lot of dog walkers will talk to a lot of other dog walkers.
Yes.
Even though it's a hello or a good to see you or whatever, there is that interaction, and I think that's a very good healthy aspect.
Yeah. And we talked about, I suppose, that motivation, and obviously you're just saying like 2 or 3 times a day when you were training, like 2 or 3 times a day, rowing, getting on the water. What was uh, what was your mental resilience like? Like, how did you keep that mental resilience? And obviously, you've talked a little bit about how that's changed over time. But what would you say was keeping you kind of mentally strong back in that time?
Well, you have your end goal, and for me, for every 4 years, you do want Olympics. I was reasonably successful. You have a down period. You have a down period after it, and then you think, well, what am I going to do now? Am I going to go and get a real job, or am I going to go and try and do another Olympics? And for me, it was of the weeks, especially the last few days and the hours before, you convince yourself you never come back. I used to lie in the rest tent after we've done our pre warm up session in the morning, out on the water. You come back, you got 2 or 3 hours to kill before you get the hour before where you talk about through your race tactics again in the group. You go for a little warm up jog. You do your stretching. 35 minutes before the race, you put your hands on the boat and put it on the water. Once you're in your boat, that's the easy time because we've practiced that millions of times. That's when you're in your environment. But it's that waiting around, sitting around, and you can hear the sort of other races going on and the excitement going on outside, and your head's just sort of spinning, and you're thinking, I want to be anywhere but here now. I do not want to be here. And you go through that process of thinking, okay, you wish the race was next week and not in 2 hours' time. And then I mentally I used to sort of switch in and think, okay, this is hell, this is horrible. But you've had 4 years of training to do this. You're waiting for this moment. What a crazy thing to not get your best performance. So go out there, get the best performance. I'll lose, win or draw, but don't come back and saying, "Oh, the effects of the pressure got to me, the adrenaline. go out there and give it your best shot, but then don't come back. You find yourself 3 months later out on the river, sometimes on your own in a single scull at that time of a part of your training. You're thinking, I said I was never going to do that. That was hell. Actually, it was quite fun. I quite enjoyed doing it. And here you are then, basically. So you make that one decision that lasts for 4 years. And that's the easy side. So you talk about the resilience of it. You'll have ups and downs within that, but you're within a team unit, even though you might be doing some of the training on your own. Is there's people around that's doing their training on their own. So it's that camaraderie, that of purpose of working towards one goal. Obviously, I came down with diabetes 3 years before my last Olympics. That sort of isolated me from the group, but I was fighting to get back into the group. I had to show that my performance was good enough to be in that four to race on the 23rd of September 2000 to try and win that Olympic gold medal. There were a couple of times where I knew that I wasn't performing at my best. And by that time, we weren't out in singles. We were doing quite a lot of pairs, and I was rowing with Matt Pinson. Won the Olympic Games before. We were world record holders, Olympic record holders at that time, and we weren't performing at the level. He was doing really well on all the tests, on the rowing machine tests. He was doing his best ever. I was falling behind slightly. We were reigning world champions in that boat as well as Olympic champions, and we were not performing at the level. And it wasn't Matt; it was me. But we had to find this working together to try and get back to the level that we were. There's a story that I tell. Hopefully, I can get through it very quickly. It's actually an American swimmer, a guy called John Nabber, and he went to the Munich Games. Part of the relay team to help the relay team qualify. Didn't swim in the final. Came out of it and thought, God, that was amazing to be part of it. He said, in 4 years' time, I want to be a part of that relay team that gets the medal around my neck, and even of racing in his individual discipline, which was the men's 100 meters backstroke. And he came out and he plotted a graph of improvement. And actually, you saw from one Olympics to another, of going back a number of Olympics, it's almost a pretty straight line of how much you've got to improve. So he worked out a time that he felt the gold medal was going to be won in, and that was 55.5 seconds. Great.
Right.
He's got an end goal. He knows where he needs to be. The problem was his personal best at that time was 59.5 seconds. He's got to go 4 seconds quicker on 100 meters swimming on his back in a pool. And he thought, I can't do that. That's too big of an ask. That's just crazy. And he nearly gave up the sport. But then he realized he didn't need to do that the next day or even that year. He had 4 years to do it. That's 1 second improvement in a year. He used to train for 10 months. That's 1/10 of a second improvement. There's roughly 30 days in a month. So that's 1/300th of a second that he's looking in a month's, in a day's training. He used to train for 4 hours a day, every day. That's 1/1200th of a second that he's looking to improve in an hour. An eye takes 5/1200th of a second to blink. So he's looking for 1/5 of an eye blink improvement in an hour's training. But you've got to do that of every day, of every month, of every year of the process. He did get to the games. He was part of that relay team that took the gold medal. He did make the final of the individual 100 meters backstroke, and he won the gold in a time of 55.49 of a second. So,
wow, incredible.
A thousandth away from what he was working and looking for. We do the same within rowing. We predict in perfect rowing conditions the times that we need to achieve, and every training session is rolled around that. If that's low endurance, why I tell the story is that my performance wasn't very good. But Matt and I didn't really like doing that much running, and it was 10 days away from the final trials. We weren't doing very well at the weekend's training. And Matt came down. He said, "Steve, right, we're going to go for a run." I thought, that's a bit weird. He doesn't normally ask for going. It's normally our coach pressurising, going for a little warm-up jog. We went down the bank. And he says, "You remember that story that you tell about John Nabber of breaking things down?" He says, we've got 10 days before the final trials, that where he's looking for a 1/5 of an eye blink. And Matt says, "Okay, we were 10 seconds behind James and Tim, who were actually in the pair. There was another pair that was beating us well." He says, "We've got 10 seconds. We've got a second that we've got to find every day for the next 10 days. How are we going to do it?" But that, obviously, it's a big ask. You're not going to do it. But what it did, it focuses into, right, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do today that's going to make a difference for tomorrow, that's going to make a difference in that? We went to those trials. We didn't win it. We actually finished third, but we closed the gap of a couple of seconds. And that was enough to show that we were still in the hunt for a selection, or more to the point, I was still in the hunt. Every other test that Matthew was top on. And so of using that story in a slightly different way, in a very sort of short period of time, where John Napper was looking for 4 years, we were looking for 10 days, still made a difference to our performance to get us back into the hunt, and certainly me back into the hunt for the selection from it. But there were twice in that training period when things were going bad that I went to Jürgen, who was our coach and the chief coach of the men, and saying, you've got to drop me from the 4, you've got to drop me from the pair. I'm holding everybody else back. And both times I got a verbal clipping around the ear. Yes, my performance on the water and in the gym wasn't at the best it should be at that point. But he says, you bring a lot more mental toughness. The unit needs that. So a few months later, I do make the selection of the 4, and I suppose looking at that side of it, it is the history. But I use those sort of things on an everyday life of trying to do whatever you need to do. And when you're at that low moments, instead of sort of hiding away and thinking of finding a process that's going to get you out of that and move you forward to get to the next part of life, your next goal, your next process. And it's all a bit about the process than sort of, it's a trigger point. Right, this is what I'm going to. That's it. Small increments make a big difference to your life. So it's that sort of a process.
Yeah,
I love that.
Sorry
I love
for
that
the long story.
of it.
I'm good at long stories.
It's great, because I think a lot of people, right, they have a goal for themselves in life, but it's just more of a wish, right? They're like, oh, I'd like to do this thing, I like this thing, but it's so important to like break it down and have metrics and just recognize that incremental steps will get you there over time. I think we get kind of seduced by modern society and culture into like, if I just do this one thing, then I'll get that result. Actually, it's about discipline and being consistent and just looking for those incremental gains that over time will stack up to get you there.
So, exactly right. We all have a wish list of things that we will do. Some formalize it and write it down, but most of us sort of drift through, and then we get to an age where some of it may have missed a part. Of people that some people that are terminally ill that go around thinking, right, I haven't got much time left. What am I going to do? And make sure that they'll hit those goals. Why wait for situations like that? Again, this sort of dancing on ice. Some of my friends are saying, "Oh, you're going to go through a midlife crisis," and I said, "Well, actually, I think I've been through the midlife crisis. I'm at the other end of that now." What's the average age of somebody? I don't know. Let's say 90, and that's on the generous side of it. Is that you got 30 years of youth, you got 30 years of midlife, and I've got I'm in the other 30 now, so I'm in that. So take the opportunities, take of those goals that you want to go and do. Maybe travel around and some sort of challenge of a parachute jump, a marathon, whatever that of going to the other side of the world, whatever it may be, plan it into your life that it happens and doesn't that you don't miss that opportunity.
I love that. I love that. 'Cause I always say, I think when you're young, you play to win, but as we get older, we suddenly start to play not to lose, and it's a very different mindset.
We're risk adverse.
Yeah.
We start to become very, very risk averse because we've got all this stuff, understandably we've got children, our life feels very safe. So we don't want to risk all of that stuff. And I think that's part of what we try and do is try and encourage people to not think that this midlife time is just a downward slope to the end. It's kind of like, no. Like there is a wisdom that comes with age. There's lots of things that we can do. Like what's the environment that you need to put yourself in? What skills you need to put together to kind of live not just a long life, but a happy one, because we're all living longer. It's not about long life, it's about the quality of us as well. So
no, definitely is that you have different chapters within your life process. And once you go through, some people obviously milestones of 50 or 60 really affect people only for a short period of time till they think, actually, I'm still the same person I was yesterday or last week or last year. Let's get on with life and enjoy it, having those challenges of direction on the morbid side of it. We're all going to die.
yeah,
Don't know when, but we're all going to die.
yeah,
And so let's enjoy it while we're here.
yeah.
I'm a type of guy that's glass half empty, not half full. So I'm always looking on the negative side, not on the positive side. So the next story I'm going to tell you of the guy that I do a lot of the cycling with, a little bit of golf with. He said, get a piece of A4 paper and fold it in half, then fold it in half again and again. And you get to the point you can't fold it anymore. Then he said, open it up, and then you've got lots of all those little squares. And he says that if 90 is the sort of the age, colour in all the squares that are related to that, and how many squares you've got left. In fact,
Yes.
we don't have that many squares left
No.
at the age that I own, and so I'm thinking, oh my God, there's not that many left. Depression. What am I going to do? No. We've got to make the most of our time. We've got to make the most of those squares. There's sort of 3 or 4 or 5 years that those squares that we might have. Make sure that you enjoy every aspect of that. What are you going to do today to make that a difference? And it's quite scary when you're holding that thing up and you're thinking, well, all that's gone.
Yes.
I've lived that, and there's only this little bit left of the squares left. Let's do something today, this couple of years, to make a difference that of enjoying. I've become a grandfather.
Congratulations!
My eldest daughter had a little girl just over a year ago, Amelia, and that's great. She lives down in Neath in Wales. She's a trauma plastic surgeon, so they have to travel to wherever the jobs are. There's not that many jobs that we come up. So they're not on our doorstep. So I'm not going this weekend, but I'm going down there the following weekend. And I think it's actually great. I'm just actually looking
I love
for this little girl that's developing her own character, now around the house and getting into all sorts of mischief. So being a grandparent is great because you can go down there, look after them, help out, have the fun, but you can hand them back
and leave.
Get back in that car.
Yeah, that's what my parents say.
Quite exciting. I've never looked forward to driving from one side to the other.
That's what my parents said. They said it was very different when they became grandparents, not just because they could leave, but because they've got a different
time
experience.
of life where you do have a little bit more time on your hands.
Yes, exactly.
You're not charging around of working, doing your own business, trying to win Olympic gold medals, whatever it may be. We've got a little bit more time to enjoy it. I think you savor that a little bit more.
Oh, congratulations. So just on that last question, really, unless you've got any more. Oh, have you? Okay. So one of my questions actually, Steve, is like, if you could give one piece of advice to men struggling with some of the challenges we've mentioned and any others at midlife, what would your one piece of advice be to a man that was struggling at midlife?
Don't sit on it. Don't wait 9 years to go and see your GP. And I think I reacted to it relatively quickly. Try and do something, and it's the hardest step that you'll make. But don't sit on it, especially if you're feeling very low and sort of opportunities are passing you by. Don't lose that time. We're not around here for that long. Let's enjoy every aspect. So yeah, start with your GP. Try and open up to your close friends. Yes, you may get a little bit of ribbing, but that's us as blokes. It's our coping mechanism. But just don't sit on it. But more in the point, the people around that person, you help them get through that process. We're not very good at doing things on our own. We're very good at bottling things up and just dealing with the not even the process, just with acceptance. So my advice is do something about it, and to the friends around, help them through that process.
Yeah, that's
Great
great.
advice.
That's
Love
great
that.
advice,
Love that.
Steve.
So my final question for you is, aside from dancing on ice, what's next for you? What else have you got planned?
I've not really got anything planned. Dancing on Ice came around as a bit of a shock, really, to me. The series that has just gone January, February this year went through the 40th anniversary of Torvill and Dean winning their Olympic gold medal 40 years ago.
40
40 years ago, and they asked me if I would do a video link through Zoom towards the show of the anniversary. But it's 40 years ago when 5th of August when I won my first Olympic gold medal. So I've known Chris and Jane for a very, very long time. Of Chris a couple of times have joked and said, "Oh, you've got to sign up for the show." No, that's not my cup of tea. When I did the interview at the end of it, I said, "Oh, I suppose you're going to be trying to get me on the show next year." Here I am. So that is the challenge. What other things have I got? I had nothing really. I've been the chair of Henry Royal Regatta for 10 years. I did my last regatta as chair just a few months ago, and now it's moved on, and so I've got a little bit more time on my hands. I'm still a very keen bad golfer. I want to try and improve my golf. Well, dancing on ice is going to cause a little problems like that. So I'm going to try and do a little bit of. I'm not going to be able to play full rounds. I've been trying the last 2 years to try and play twice a week every week, and it hasn't been happening. I've got close to it, and so now maybe I need a golf lesson or two. And then I've got some hours during the day around that. There's tiredness and the fatigue that we're going to find with our training. So improve my golf, of trying to get down to Swansea a little bit more, see my goddaughter. Enjoy this challenge, and then once that's out, again, where I talk about your friends' banter, I have told them, it was only public last week, but I have told them I'm going to do it, and I'm saying that this is a midlife crisis you're going through. No, I'm past my midlife. I'm enjoying the years that I've got left. And then they're saying, "Oh, can we come along to the live shows?" Because they are live shows, and we do get a number of places. So my friends are saying, "Oh, can I get on the first show that you're on, or the second?" None of them are asking for the last or the semi-final or the quarterfinal. They're trying to get the early ones in. I'm not going to be around of pushing for trying to get to the end show. No, but yeah, hopefully I can prove them wrong.
Sure you will.
Got no idea. Tomorrow we'll find out how good or bad I am. I think I'm going to be very bad, and they're probably right. I'm going to get kicked out in the first show or two.
Listen,
but
Steve,
I'm planning to enjoy it.
Steve, you
Right.
couldn't be any worse than me on ice. Just a really quick story. James and I just started dating,
Oh yeah.
and his birthday is in December. And I thought it'd be lovely to go to Somerset House for ice skating. And I said, "Oh, let's go along for your birthday, Somerset House ice skating." Um, we got on the ice, and I was like,
No, wait, can I have to say, she really built it up. She's all on about that, how much she loves skating at Christmas. It's her favourite thing. So we get to the ring. I'm there, I've got my skates on, get on the ring. I
like
turn around.
Bambi.
She's like clutching the side with her legs going everywhere. I thought I was going to have to get one of those little penguin things that the kids hold on to.
Hopefully they've got some big ones of them that I can hold on to. But yeah, that's the level that I am. Yeah, I've been on ice a couple of times with the kids, that type of thing. I can get around not holding onto the side, but to me, I think it's about speed. It's not about finesse. It's not about there. When I come to stop, whack,
Yeah.
speed into the side. When I start tomorrow, I'm going to be in the high ski. Everyone else has got a proper ice dancing skates. I've got higher skates that ice hockey players use because my feet are so wide. I can't find a pair of skates that will fit. So I'm having some made at the moment. It's still
Wow.
going to take 3 weeks, 4 weeks before I get them. So
Oh,
they have a little sort of jagged bit at the top that
yes.
you can use. People say that's a nightmare because if you've never used them before, which I haven't, that they grab the ice and stop you quite quickly. So
Yes.
yeah, you fall over head first.
Yeah.
The physio with the show that's been on the show with the show for the 17 years it's been running, she's saying you'll get all this safety gear. Please wear it, especially the helmet because it is slightly different from going down to Somerset House or of
Bit different.
the ice rings that pop up or the one
Yeah.
I'll do most of my training down at Slough. It's about 25 minutes drive away from me.
Right.
That's where I'm going to try and make it as convenient in that first period as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And she said, you are going to fall over. You are 62. You don't bounce quite as well as you do. Be very, very careful. Enjoy the experience.
Yeah. Well,
Enjoy it. That's the
I
main
have to
thing.
say, we don't normally watch Dancing on Ice, but now
We will.
we've
sure.
met you, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on to our
Tune in
podcast.
January, not February. There's 9 shows. Get in there early.
So we will be watching now.
If I carry on and get through some of the programs, that's going to be a base. The physio always said to me as well. So, what are you looking to get out of this? And I say, well, James Cracknell did Strictly.
Yes, he did, didn't
He
he?
got knocked out in show 1. So if I can get through show 1, I will be very, very, very pleased, and everything's a bonus from there on.
There we go.
Competitive spirit.
Competitive spirit, but it's not thinking I've got to win. I've got to win.
Yeah.
I just want to get through a show or 2 would be good.
Yeah.
Go any further than that, it'll be just amazing.
And have fun.
Yeah, no.
Have
So
fun.
I'm not very good at. I've had part of the contract of signing up. I've had to go onto Instagram. So this morning I've got my of 500 follower.
Oh, well, we'll follow you.
Send us your handle and we'll add it to
What
the show notes.
What is your handle, Steve?
Sir Steve Redgrave. And I was, as I say, I'm a keen golfer. I've just got back late last night from the Dunhill Links where Tyrrell Hatton won, and he played with his father. Well, while I mentioned Tyrrell went to the same comprehensive school, 20 minutes walk down there, Great Marlow Comprehensive.
Yeah,
We both went there. Matthew Pinson and I used to have a Sparks charity golf day that was raising money for young pre-birth and post-birth of babies. It's been now linked into Great Ormond Street, which we're still involved in, not quite as much as having our own golf day. The Bucks-Free Press from High Wycombe, Tyrrell's from High Wycombe, and he won the competition to go into our event. He was a 12-year-old. Matthew and I have got a photograph of him on the 18th green. Oh yeah, no, this is the Bucks-Free winner. Oh yeah, oh, little tiny guy. Yeah, enjoy it, have a good fun. Next time I noticed at our clubhouse, is that Tyrrell Hatton has qualified as an amateur to go to the Open and play in the Open. There's pictures on the wall at our clubhouse. We're so proud of Tyrrell, because when he came and played in that golf day with us, is that he came back, he loved the course so much. He asked his dad, could he be a member of the course? So he's been a member, one of our junior members right the way through. He's our touring pro now. Great Marlow, where we are in Buckinghamshire, we still have the 11 plus.
Yes.
Great Marlow is one of the schools that you go to if you don't pass. I don't know if I've met him and spoke to him. I spoke to him last week, and it was great watching him win it for the third time. Great prize money that they get. So very, very different to prize money that the rowers get. But it was great to see somebody that's come through from the local comprehensive, failed his 11 plus. He may have failed his 11 plus on purpose because it's closer to the golf course than the schools that if you actually pass. That's not true, actually. Ball A's is slightly closer to but yeah, perhaps educational wise we're in the same ballpark. But yeah, congratulations to him.
You're now on Instagram, so we will follow you.
Thank you.
Part of the thing is you being on Instagram. Also,
504. I think I've gone up two in the last hour.
Wow, you'll have
thousands once the show goes out.
Not that I'm watching it with my phone.
Don't get obsessed, Steve. That's one of the things I would say.
Well, I mentioned the Dunhill. The other person I've met him a couple of times before, is Gareth Bale.
Oh yeah.
Very, very good golfer. I think he was an okay footballer as well. But everyone's looking, can I get into the thousands? Can I get into a couple of hundred people following me? He's got 54.2 million people following him.
54 million.
That's a population of a country.
No, yeah, exactly. 67 million is the population of the UK. He's got most of the UK. Obviously, there's people enjoy football from around the world, but no, that is pretty. Peter Jones has got a million. I'm very good friends with him. He lives locally. He was up at the Dunhill. We played in a group on one day. Piers Morgan, I had the pleasure of playing with Piers on another day. God, he can talk. But what good fun he was. He was really good fun.
Yeah.
He's got a 2.4. So they're all tapping in.
Million.
2.4 million, yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, that's making
you'll catch them up.
4,500 on Instagram. Look really pathetic. Steve,
I'm hoping to go past you quite quickly.
Yes,
the show starts in January. But that again, am I competitive? No.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I don't think I'm going to catch up Gareth, but one or two others. You start picking people off and thinking, no. I can do that.
It's been.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been like most inspiring chat.
Really has.
A really important message for men to hear as well. So thank you so much.
Don't sit on your problems. Get things sorted out. Do something about it, and enjoy life.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Steve.
Good to chat to you.
You're good. Bye. You too.
Yeah. You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you, so drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors. Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And don't forget to take the Midlife Reset audit now to receive personalised insights into what's holding you back from living your healthiest, happiest midlife. So go ahead and take the audit now at themidlifementors.com/audit.